Good morning, Saints. Today we're going to look at Job 11. I'm not going to read all of it. I just want to read the part that really impacted me this morning. But we'll start off with the first part of it. Zophar urges Job to repent. 11:1. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered and said, "Should not the multitudes of words be answered? And should a man full of talk be vindicated?" Verse 3, should you empty talk make men hold their peace? And when you mock, should no one rebuke you? Verse 4, for you have said, my doctrine is pure, and I am clean in your eyes. Verse 5, but oh, that God would speak and open his lips against you. Verse 6, that he should show you the secrets of wisdom, for they would double your prudence. Know therefore that God exacts from you less than your iniquity deserves. I'm stopping there for a second because I thought that's very powerful with his friend. And let us never have friends like this. This group of men saw what state Job was in. That he had to scrape himself with a clay pot, that he had blisters all over him and including his feet, that he was in misery. They knew that he had lost all and everything. And he was at his lowest. And this is what they said, that he should show you the secrets of wisdom, for they would double your prudence. Know therefore that God exacts from you less than your iniquity deserves. I mean, let none of us ever have friends like this. Verse 7, can you search out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limits of the Almighty? Verse 8, they are higher than heaven. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Verse 9, their message is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. Verse 10, if he passes by, imprisons and gathers to judgment, then who can hinder him? Verse 11, for he knows deceitful men. He sees wickedness also. Will he not then consider it? Verse 12, for an empty-headed man will be wise when a wild donkey's coat is born a man. Again, something so weird to say. He said basically, a stupid man will be wise when a donkey has a coat and is a man. That's rough. Verse 13, if you will prepare your heart and stretch out your hand toward him. Verse 14, if iniquity were in your hand and you put it far away, and would not let wickedness dwell in your tents. 15, then surely you could lift up your face without spot. Yes, you could be steadfast and not fear. I mean, the man's at his bottom. This is what they tell him. Verse 16, because you would forget your misery and remember it as waters that have passed away. Verse 17, and your life would be brighter than noonday. Though you were dark, you would be like the morning. Verse 18, and you would be secure because there is hope. Yes, you would dig around you and take your rest in safety. Verse 19, you would also lie down and no one would make you afraid. Yes, many would court your favor. Verse 20, but the eyes of the wicked will fail, and they shall not escape, and their hope, loss of life. Which, at that point, was a mute point because Job already didn't want to be here. He had suffered and his kids were dead and he lost his property. His wife told him to curse God. And, he basically, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. I love what Job said. This is what you say to people who insult you. Job started off verse 12:1. Then Job answered and said, verse 2, no doubt you are the people and wisdom will die with you. I love it. No doubt, you are the people. Y'all know everything, and wisdom will die with you. Ain't nobody got brains like y'all got. I love that he just kept his cool and told it. Verse 3, but I have understanding as well as you. I am not inferior to you. Indeed, who does not know such things as these? So you're not telling me anything I don't know. Verse 4, I am one mocked by his friends who call on God, and he answered him, the just and blameless, who is ridiculed. Amazing. Verse 5, a lamp is despised in the thought of one who is at ease, It is made ready for those whose feet slip. Verse 6. The tents of robbers prosper, and those who provoke God are secure in what God provides by his hand. Verse 7. But now ask the beasts, and they will teach you, and the birds of the air, and they will tell you. Verse 8. Or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, and the fish of the sea will explain to you. Verse 9. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? Verse 10. In whose hand is the life of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind? Verse 11. Does not the ear test words, and the mouth taste its food? Verse 12. Wisdom is with aged men, and with the length of days understanding. Verse 13. With him are wisdom and strength. He has counsel and understanding. Verse 14. If he break a thing down, it cannot be rebuilt. If he imprisons a man, there can be no release. Let me stop there. A lot of people, well, they put me in prison, or I did something wrong. Here he tells, us, if he imprisons a man, there can be no release. This is why you have some people who never did a crime, yet they ended up in prison. I always wondered about that. Because when he imprisons you, you cannot be released. Verse 15, if he withholds the water, they dry up. If he sends them out, they overwhelm the earth. Verse 16, with him are strength and prudence. The deceived and the deceiver are his. Forgive me. Verse 17, he leads counselors away plundered and makes fools of the judges. We've seen this too. With people who are in leadership or in positions, he makes a fool out of them, even if they are a judge. Verse 18, and he loosens the bounds of kings and binds their waists with a belt. 19, he leads princes away plundered and overthrows the mighty. So in God's path, there's nothing he can't do, and everything is his will. 20, he deprives the trusted ones of speech and takes away the discernment of the elders. He pours contempt on princes and disarms the mighty. That was verse 21. Verse 22, he uncovers deep things out of darkness and brings the shadow of death to light. Verse 23, he makes nations great and destroys them. He enlarges nations and guides them. Verse 24, he takes away the understanding of the chiefs of the people of the earth and makes them wander in a pathless wilderness. You can say that's going on right now in this world. Takes away the understanding of the chiefs of the people of the earth and makes them wander in a pathless wilderness. Verse 25, they grope in the dark without light, and he makes them stagger like a drunken man. That is what's going on now in so many nations, not only the U.S. So we continue with Job. He wants to defend himself in chapter 13. Behold, chapter 13, verse 1. Behold, my eye has seen all this. My ear has heard and understood it. Verse 2. What you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you. So he reinforces that. Verse 3. But I would speak to the Almighty, and I desire to reason with God. Verse 4. But you forgers of lies, you are all worthless physicians. I'm going to stop there because some people today, I pray they don't, but you might have those friends who tell you things to your face and they're wanting you to agree with it, and it's not true. Don't do it. Today is the day where if someone speaks a word of sadness or depression, or they speak, we're all having problems. Don't receive that. Say, no, maybe you are, but I'm not. You're not going to speak for me. Don't receive whatever these people tell you. When they tell you, oh, you almost at the finish line, and then you throw in the towel, tell them that, you don't receive that that's their proclamation over themselves. You always give up before you get there. That's your personal proclamation, but it's not mine. I don't receive it in Jesus' name, and I send it back, return to sender. We've got to learn how when people speak death over you or speak something that is not even something you contemplating, you never thought to speak something negative over them. Return it to sender. I return to sender every evil word ever spoken to me by a peer, co-worker, boss, subordinate, anybody, relative, person in authority, any negative word ever spoken over my life. And I speak this over you. Any negative word ever spoken over your life, we return to sender now. that as of this moment, God will free us, deliver us from it. And because we stand on chapter 13, verse 2, what you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you. Verse 3, but I would speak to the Almighty, and I desire to reason with God. Let's go on with verse 5. Oh, that you would be silent, and it would be your wisdom. So I'm going to say this for us. Let us be silent, because it is our wisdom. He wanted them to stop talking because they weren't talking about anything wise. Verse 6, now hear my reasoning, and heed the pleading of my lips. Verse 7, will you speak wickedly for God and talk deceitfully for him? Verse 8, will you show partiality for him? Will you contend for God? Verse 9, will it be well when he searches you out, or can you mock him as one mocks a man? Verse 10, he will surely rebuke you if you secretly show partiality. Verse 11, will not his excellence make you afraid, and the dread of him fall upon you? Verse 12, your platitudes are proverbs of ashes, your defenses are defenses of clay. Verse 13, hold your peace with me and let me speak, then let come on me what may. Verse 14, why do I take my flesh in my teeth and put my life in my hands? Verse 15, though he slay me, again, yet will I trust him. Even so I will defend my own ways before him. Verse 16, he also shall be my salvation, for a hypocrite could not come before him. Verse 17, listen carefully to my speech and to my declaration with your ears. Verse 18, see now, I have prepared my case. I know that I shall be vindicated. Verse 19, who is he who will contend with me? If now I hold my tongue, I perish. So don't perish today. If someone speaks up against you, open your mouth. But do it as tactfully as Job did, that the person can't really tell that you're insulting them back. Now, the next part of this, and I love to do the verses as far as it gives the Old Testament and the New Testament, is Acts 9:1. What's amazing, but actually the verse that I want is Acts 9:1-9. And it's actually verse, many of you may already know the Damascus Road story where Saul was killing a bunch of Christians and finding delight in it. We start off with the Damascus Road where Saul, still breathing threats of murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest. Verse 2, and asked letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus, so if he found any who were of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. So he's going to imprison them. Verse 3, as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Verse 4, then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Verse 5, and he said, who are you, Lord? Then the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. Is it hard for you to kick against the goads? Verse 6, so he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Now I'm going to stop and go back to 5. I always wonder what it meant. Is it hard for you to kick against the goads? Because somebody knows about this. It just ain't me. So let's do a quick Google search. Of course, it's Microsoft. We'll see what we get. All right, so they say this is what goads means. It is hard for you to kick repeatedly against the goads, offering pointless resistance. We all fell to the ground, and I heard a voice speaking to me, Aramaic, Saul, Saul. All right, so it's saying that it's offering pointless resistance when he says it's hard to kick against the goads to offer pointless resistance. So he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Now, I'm going to stop there because that's phenomenal. You get knocked off a horse. You hear a voice coming out of the air. And immediately, you don't even hesitate. I mean, you've been killing Christians all for whatever. You were there when Saul got killed. You have had no fear with killing folk. You've justified it by thinking, okay, well, the Roman rule or whatever is right. I'm Jewish and this is the deal. And yet, when God knocks you off the horse, you recognize that one, you can't see him when you hear his voice. You immediately surrender. Then the Lord said to him, arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. Verse 7, and the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice but seeing no one. Can you imagine that? Not only did the Lord want to make the point to Saul, but he let all those around him hear the voice too. They all got a lesson that day. Verse 8, then Saul arose from the ground, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no one, but they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus, and he was 3 days without sight and neither ate nor drank. So Saul gets baptized, but that's not the part I want to talk about. This is the part that got to me this morning. Saul preaches to Christ, verse 20. Immediately he preached to Christ in the synagogues that he is the Son of God. Verse 21. Then all who heard were amazed and said, is this not he who destroyed those who called on this name in Jerusalem and has come here for the purpose so that he might bring them bound to the chief priests? So people won't forget your past. Every opportunity they have, they in your face. But look what Saul does, 22. But Saul increased all the more in strength and confounded the Jews who dealt in Damascus, proving that this Jesus is the Christ. Now, even though Saul had first been pro-Jewish, or pro, the customs, once he got knocked off that horse, he immediately surrendered. Nobody else had to tell him anything. He knew what was going on was supernatural. And he was like, okay, well, whatever you're telling me to do, I'll do it. Even to death, he did not care. But I looked at his enemies, which were the very people who were his friends initially, were quick to say, ain't this the guy who wanted to kill all the Christians or all the people who follow Jesus? But as they said it, and I asked the Lord, let us all be this way too. But Saul increased all the more in strength. Let us increase more in strength. When somebody challenges us, let us bear down and increase more in strength in the Lord. Let us confound our enemies. Because we know that Jesus is the Christ. We're at an advantage that very few people are at. We know. We already know that Jesus is the Christ. Anybody who doesn't know that, it's not a threat to us. We just need to let them know about the goodness of God. When this happened to Saul, he got baptized by someone who was afraid of him. You can read that on your own. And he still went after it. And wrote more books in the Bible than anybody. So know this, that you can overcome anything. If you got God at your back, there's nothing impossible. Have a great day.